all my anger, all the fire that I had inside, and the fact that I knew, say, maybe this is the only one shot I got. And I mean, I remember there was no speed limit in pit lane. I drove it wide open in pit lane, from turn 4. I mean, wide open, as hard as the car, 200 and, plus miles per hour.
Brother Max, it's good to have you on the show. I haven't seen you in a long time. It's good to see your face.
Thank you, PT. So happy to be here with you.
So Mad Max, Massimiliano, Masi, your stats, I'm looking at your career, and 3 IndyCar wins, 11 podiums, 24-hour of Le Mans winner, or the Daytona winner, 3 times on the podium, 3rd at Le Mans, 2 seconds. You've raced Cup, you've raced trucks, you've raced Xfinity, you've raced off-road trucks. I mean, is there anything that you haven't driven?
Drag racing.
Oh, yeah.
That would be something that I actually took a look a while ago, but no, thank you. Yeah, I've done, some of it was through necessity. Some of it was because was choice. Maybe some of the things I would have done is slightly different, but it definitely made me who I am now, PT. And it created this relationship. I mean, come on, we're friends, for so many years. And I think that this is, to me, this is the most important part.
Yeah. So, I look back at your career, and it really wasn't a super early start for you. You didn't start racing karts until you were 12, 13, and you weren't really allowed to race the kart. I heard a story that you had to go down to the kart shop and work in the kart shop and like help out until you got the permission from your dad to drive the kart. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you. I'm born in a very small village in Italy, but basically 1,200 people. The amazing thing was the next door, the next village right on the side of mine, there was this amazing engine tuner. I mean, this guy has been the engine tuner for Alonso, Fisichella, and
well, he was Senna's guy, right? It was,
absolutely. I was Ayrton coach, mentor.
Yeah.
And what I did, I had my little Vespa, and every day, at 14 years of age, you can drive a Vespa in Italy, a 50cc. So I had a Vespa, and every day I went down to see Diego Mombelli, and I asked him, hey, can I go to the track? Can you take me to the track? Can you take me to the track? And it happened. It happened, went to the local track, and then it was history after that. Again, in that particular moment was an amazing friendship that was born. I got to meet Diego. Without him, I would have never gone anywhere. And Diego introduced me to my mentor, Ayrton Senna. And I can only imagine, 2 guys from 1,000 people village, knowing a badass champion like Ayrton.
So at that time, what year was that? Was Aytron in Formula One by then?
No, he was racing in Formula 3. He was, okay. I was 14 years of age. So 69, 79, 83, 84, 1983, 1984. And he took a like on me. And I remember going with my dad to see Ayrton in Monaco Grand Prix, where basically nobody cared for him. He was just, he was a kid driving the Toleman. It was me, my dad. I remember picking up Ayrton after the race with the Gold GTI of my dad and driving him all the way up to the Lowe's Casino. He gave me his helmet that he just finished the race, that historic race in the rain. He was pissed like there was no tomorrow.
Pouring rain. Yeah, pouring rain too.
Absolutely. And I remember my dad telling him, hey, Ayrton, I have a feeling that this might not be the only one race you have a shot to win. And we had, just kept, kept an amazing relationship and very fortunate.
So you finally get the chance to race the kart for Diego, and he immediately sees something in you. He says to your dad, "This he's pretty good." And you start racing, and you're winning. You're winning 100cc karting races in Italy, and quickly it progresses because you're already 13 years old, and then you're straight into cars. I think you went straight into Formula 3 at 16 years old.
No, I was 19 because you couldn't go to Formula before you were 18 years old. So I was 18 and a half. And I raced karting at the highest level. I raced for PCR. I had a contract with Bridgestone. We were getting a little bit of money from them, and I thought that my career was going to be there, basically racing karting at the highest level. Then my dad had a small business. He had helped Alex Zanardi in 1990, I believe. He gave him some of his saving because Alex he came over and say, "Listen, Mr. Papis, nobody is helping me." My dad gave him a hand, and the year after, I got a shot at testing Alex Zanardi Formula 3 car, and that was like a pretty big jump. But I still remember when I drove the F3 the first time, coming from karting at World Championship level, it felt kind of like I didn't like it so much, honestly. The car didn't brake, didn't steer. It was like, is this really a step forward? I was thought it was a step back. Sideways.
Karting in Europe is super, super intense compared to, and I don't know what it's like now versus North American karting, because there's some karting kids that go to Europe now and they do pretty well, but it's a whole another level when you go to Europe. But
I mean, my contender were Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard, Gilles de Ferran, you name them, like at karting level. So, if you had to prove yourself, you had to prove against the best of the best.
So what years were you racing karts? Because we're about the same age. I'm 56. You're 54.
Yep.
Now.
Yeah, 55.
So I went. Yeah. So we're only a year apart. I went to Laval and I drove for Peter de Bruin in Laval Junior World Championships, and Schumacher was there, Ivan Muller, Morbidelli, Colciago, all these guys, and I finished sixth in the Junior World Championships in Laval. So you were right about at the same time.
Yeah, we didn't have the funding to do junior races. So what I did, I never did junior anything. During my junior year, I only raced at the local races in Italy. And I went to Laval later on, but to run the 135cc World Championship.
Yeah.
With PCR, I remember they took me all the way to Hong Kong, the Intercontinental GP that I had the opportunity to win. That really helped my career tremendously. And I remember I even got paid. I had a check, coming from the Hong Kong Grand Prix. And we were at the same time, but I skipped all the junior stuff just because we were not up at the level to be in a works team. So I raced locally.
This podcast is brought to you by Racer and Racer.com, the leading motorsports news and information source in North America. With special thanks to trusted silver and gold trading partner and studio sponsor ITM Trading and Scottsdale-based Apex Motor Club. I'm a member there. It's a membership-only private track racing community right here in Phoenix. If you want to go racing, that's the place to be. So you come out of karts, you're successful in karts. The natural progression is into Formula 3. You're successful there. You're winning races. You're winning races, and then Formula 3000, and Lotus notices you, puts you in a car as a test driver. So you progressed through into Formula 1 pretty quick in your career. But it really didn't work out for you. You were there. You drove for Footwork. what didn't translate? Because you were winning at the junior level all the way up, and then it just, 1 year, I think you only did 7 races, I read, and it just didn't work for some reason.
You're 100% right. I had the opportunity to join Lotus through Ayrton. Ayrton was the person that put me in contact with Peter Collins. Unfortunately, when that happened, Ayrton passed.
Yeah.
So I would say that one of the main reasons of why things didn't happen for me in F1, it was mainly my lack of maturity and the lack of guidance. I had, my family doesn't come from racing. I didn't have a manager. I didn't have anything. I put all this together on my own with the help of Ayrton. When Ayrton died, basically we were alone. So I would say that, being alone in that world was not easy. It was tough. It was, I felt so sad at some moments because I didn't have anyone to be able to share, my emotion. It was a very difficult thing, and I was a little bit mature as well. And it is as kind of like a little sad to talk about it because I have zero memory of anything I did in F1. It was my dream. I wanted to do it, but if you ask me up here, I don't remember. And I remember maybe, I don't even remember the sound of the car. So it must have not been a very, very good moment, but
well, when I look at it now, like I research some of the pictures of you, and you were always tall, thin, but very tall. And I've seen some pictures of you, and you're like you're halfway out of the car in the Lotus. The top of the cars is like your arm is out of the car, right?
Yes.
So in those days in Formula One, the cars were very small. They were very compact, very low to the ground, and you were sticking out of the car. Do you think your physical height was maybe a limiting factor? Because a lot of drivers in that era were really tiny guys, and maybe the car just you didn't fit in the car well.
I know that being tall was a problem, and I tell you as much was a problem that, maybe this sounds crazy, but I even thought about, hey, maybe, can I make a surgery and cut off like this from my leg? I really, I was ready to do anything, I was serious about it. I went to Japan. I asked if I could get a little shorter. And, I was, that tells you a little bit who I am. For sure, driving those cars were difficult. The car was made, the Lotus was made for Johnny Herbert.
Yeah, he's like 5'5".
Yeah, exactly.
And you're 6'2".
Yeah, I'm 6'1". Yeah, 6'2". And that for sure didn't help. But mainly as well, when you go and you play with the shark, you need to have a nice protection.
Yeah,
I didn't have any protection. I thought everyone was nice, and it was not like that.
yeah.
It was not like that, but it was a good experience. I learned a lot. I learned, and that lesson stuck in my brain when I got my first shot. When I came back to US, I said, "This is my opportunity." I learned everything I didn't. I learned a lot of things that I should have not done. I learned something that I had to do, and I used it all when I came to US.
Yeah. So now you come to the US, you get an opportunity to drive for factory Ferrari, for Momo.
Yeah.
Iconic car. And I actually went back and watched this morning when I was working out. I watched your final stint at Daytona at the 24 hours. It was freezing cold overnight, and you guys were 3-4 laps down going into the last couple of hours, and they put you in the car, and you basically unlapped yourself 2 or 3 times and get back to the lead lap. And at the time, it was the closest finish in the history of the Daytona 24 hours, and they kept calling you Max Papis, and they nicknamed you Mad Max, and that was where you really made the name for yourself in America. This was like the birth of Mad Max.
Yeah, like let's be very clear, okay? Back then, sports car was not for a 26 years old kid like I was.
Yeah.
Basically,
You were
it was
driving like an animal. I watched your in-car, and you were like, I saw you come out of the pits on one of the pit stops, and I was like, there was no speed limit at the end, and I'm like, he's gonna hit the wall on the pit exit, and you were like sideways, like coming out of the pits, driving like crazy.
PT, I was 26 years old. The youngest teammate was Michele Alboreto.
Yeah.
I think was twice my age. They didn't want me to drive the car because they thought I was going to break the car. Back then, I told you, sports car was not for a young kid. It was almost like so. When I went from F1 to sports car, it would be like going from NBA to play in the high school. You know, and but I knew that that to me was my shot. When they put me in the car and they told me that I could go, I went. I had all this memory in the back of my brain. What Ayrton told me, the hard work, the time I spent at the shop with my mechanic, and I went, "Hey Max, this is your shot. This is your shot." I kept thinking about it every second. What you saw there, being sideways and everything, was all my anger, all the fire that I had inside, and the fact that I knew, said, maybe this is the only one shot I got. And I remember there was no speed limit in pit lane. I drove it wide open in pit lane, from turn 4. Wide open, as hard as the car, 200 and, plus miles per hour. Those cars were fast. We had a V12 from F1. And I remember coming out, doing my first interview, people would say, Max Papis. And I went like, okay, let's make sure. Because first of all, I hated it when I was in F1. They kept calling me Massimiliano. That my dad, I don't even know why he used that name only when he was super pissed.
Yeah.
And so I went, all right, let's be clear. My name is Max Papis, Papis.
I saw the interview.
Let's start with that. And I think that circumstances, we were running Yokohama. The distributor of Yokohama had an IndyCar team that was PPI.
So now I was going to say, now you're on the lips of everybody in America, right? Everybody saw this race, saw the finish, and now you're the talk of the town, and immediately you get an IndyCar opportunity to drive for factory Toyota now.
Yeah, it was a strange opportunity, PT. Jeff Krosnoff passed in Toronto. Yeah. I knew Jeff, because I went to Japan, to try to get a shot in F3000. That was, back then the highest formula. And I remember PPI called and told me, listen, you and Eddie Lawson and another guy, Apicella, are the only 3 people that didn't call us. And that speaks a ton of your who you are inside. And would you like to come over and have a shot at the car in Mid-Ohio? And the first things I did, I called Jeff's wife. I asked the number, because it was something that I wanted to make sure that I had, it was taken for the right reason. And it was a moment, it was very different for me, PT, because what I had done until then, I was searching, I was trying and everything. And after my Formula One experience, I almost, I was really happy to race in sports car and win races. And so I didn't pursue that opportunity that much, but I remember, it fell on my lap. I showed up in Mid-Ohio. I ran on Thursday. Alex Zanardi vetted me to be, I think you need to be vetted to be in IndyCar. And I went out there. I was the fastest Toyota driver, and walking out of the from the driver meeting, Bobby Rahal and Al Jr. took me on the side and told me, "Hey, son, it looks like you're gonna be around for a while here. Play your card right. If you need
Yeah.
anything, come to us." And that was the beginning of my adventure in IndyCar. And
Yeah.
it was I
I
didn't
mean,
really understand what I had.
the first 2 years of your IndyCar career was a struggle because the engine was not super competitive compared to the Mercedes or the Ford, but the team, PPI, was very professional. One of the nicest outfits. They had Calwells did everything very nice, but it was tough to get good results because the motor just wasn't as reliable. A lot of engine blowups in those days, fuel mileage, so different things made it a struggle to get good results.
Yes, the results were a struggle, but when I look back at it, I was very lucky. And I don't like the word lucky. I was fortunate because I was able to do hundreds of miles,
Yeah.
testing, developing. But again, lack of advisory. I've always been just a pure racers, and my impatience of wanting everything right here, right then. I took a lot of opportunity. I enjoyed every second. PPI. What PPI, what Calwell's created back then was, maybe, I would say, if I look back, the quality of people that they were in that team, they spread around IndyCar and won championship all over. I mean, we had Gordon Koppel, F1 designer, Ian Watt, Garrett Mothersaid. I mean, you name them. Just mechanic. Everyone, some of the best of the best of the best.
Yeah.
And yeah, results were not coming. But there were a lot of cool things like
Yeah.
happening. And we had our own goal. We wanted to be the fastest Toyota guy. We were achieving that week in and week out. And yeah, if there was something, I wish I would have had more patience, or someone that would advise me to stay there and finish what I started.
Well, but the phone rings and you get an opportunity to drive for Bobby Rahal after he retires, and now it's big time, right? Big sponsor, Miller Brewing Company, big budget. I'm sure you started getting paid really well at that time, and that's what's a huge opportunity.
Yes, huge opportunity, but when I look back at it, I should have stayed at Toyota.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. Because loyalty would have been more important than chasing the next dream. I loved everything I did. I have great memory with Bobby. I'm super proud I drove the Miller Lite car. But at the same time, I feel that if I would have been a little bit more patient, and if I would have been advised properly, I left a program that was maybe the best program in IndyCar, in an unfinished situation, while I could have been the player to bring it to success. So that's how I look at it personally.
Yeah.
I always look inside. Like that. Did I love what I did for Rahal? Of course. I went over there. There was the Cosworth engine, the Miller Lite, the shell, and everything. But again, did I win races? Yes.
Yeah, well, immediately you were competitive. You were leading the race at Michigan, dominant, coming to the checkered flag. You run out of fuel, and was it? It was Tony that beat you to the line when you ran out of the fuel.
Yeah, we gave him the win. I'm still waiting for the cut. We were leading all the way to the last corner, ran out of gas on the last corner, and that would be my first ever win.
That was, but his first win as well. So both of you would have been both. His or
I
your
felt
first
that
win.
I deserved it more. And But anyway, it was good. It was a difficult moment, for me because again, things in my career never happen easy. I had to really put my elbow out, make things happen, and I just felt that I learned from the best to drive on an oval. I went to have lunch with Rick Mears and dinner every time I was at the track, learning how
Yeah.
to do, how to be the best oval driver I could. I was so proud that I was dominant in super speedway. In those 2 years, I think 99 and 2000, I led most lap than anyone on the super speedway. And to me, that was a personal satisfaction because coming from completely different background, I went like,
There was
there
a
was something special.
there was a lot going on in that time. The cars were super super fast on super speedways. We finished the year with Greg passing at Fontana, which was I know was super hard for you because you and Greg were very close to each other. And then you had a very good year, but then you start the 2000 season, the first race after Greg's passing, you win. And I don't know
Yeah,
if you remember who the guy you were fighting with for the win was.
I remember really well. Was a guy in a green car that bubbled up because I had too much push in the car out of four, trying to pass a back marker. And there was this guy on a Miller Lite car that was on fire and sent it in turn one, almost wrecked. And yeah, it was you. It was my first win. It could have not been better. I always admired you because I admire your bravery and I admire your fire. And to be able to win my first IndyCar race, battling with a guy like you, it made it even more special. And winning on an oval and winning on the track that Greg Moore, one of our best friends, was dominant. Uh, he was, in doing it, the race after he passed. Uh, with so many emotions. And I remember like yesterday, I crossed the finish line, and the first thing that came to my mind was Greg.
Yeah. I
Like
mean,
this.
I wasn't unhappy that I lost the race, and I don't even remember. I was the first person at your car and gave you a hug
Oh yeah.
when as soon as you got out of the car. So I knew how close you were to Greg, and I knew how special it was for you. And it didn't, it didn't, everybody hates to lose, and I hate to lose, but in that moment, I was like, this is really special for Max.
Yeah, thank you, PT. And it was very special for a lot of reasons. Like I told you, like I'm a very focused person. Like I am as far from the happy-go-lucky guy that sometimes you see, outside. I'm a very serious, determined, hardworking person on the track, and that moment it meant a lot. As I told you, like mm, it could have happened before, yes. Should have happened before, yes. uh, mm, did it happen in a unusual way like many other things in my career? Of course. uh, was it, as I told you, like it was very strange. Crossed our finish line before turning into turn one. The first things, I mean, I had like a picture in my brain of Greg in front of me looking into turn one. And the first things that came to my mind, I opened the radio and I say, hey, Greg, I love you. And when you go and you look back at it, it's kind of surreal, but that was in my brain. That was not
Yeah.
during the race, but after the race. And I think that sometimes things happen for a reason. This was a great reason. It's a memory that is it's in my brain, is embedded in my brain, and will never leave my brain.
Yeah. Well, those, I mean, when I look back at those years now, that it was kind of a special time in racing because, you guys were so close, you, Greg, Dario, TK, everybody. And I remember when you first came to IndyCar and I'd see you running around the track and you'd have your shirt off and you always had your shirt off. And I was like, God damn, this guy's fucking ripped. He's like, this guy is in serious shape. Like, but you also partied like an animal with those guys. Like, you guys had fun off the track, but when it was time to get serious, I mean, you were always regarded as one of the most fit guys in IndyCar at that time.
Yeah, fitness has always been a tremendous part of myself. I always tried to control what I could, and that was one part. That was one part. I wanted to make sure that when I showed up, uh, uh, I was at the highest level. There was no excuses. And but again, I allowed myself to let few people in my circle of trust. For sure, Greg was one of them. Um, but obviously, yeah, we had a lot of arguments. I remember right, there was right before he passed. It was almost a month and a half we didn't talk because I blocked him. I put him in the wall at St. Louis. Then he was pissed with me. He didn't want to talk. And I remember walking to the grid, him with this hand all messed up. I was starting on the first row, and I looked at him. And for the first time after 1 month and a half, I talked to him, and I was like, "Hey, think about it. Just keep the big picture in mind. But I'm gonna keep looking at the pylon, and I'm gonna give you 15 laps because I'm expecting you to be there." He never arrived, and
Yeah.
he never arrived there. But again, like I allowed myself to lower my guard with some of these, people, some of this racer. I'm proud of that. They were special to me. Dario, Tony, especially Greg, and we built a relationship that they are long lasting. And
It's like lifelong friends, right?
forever. For a
Jimmy,
Dario Franchitti is
Jimmy and Alex and
yeah, Dario Franchitti is the godfather of my son. Jimmy Vasser is you. I would have never imagined that through racing we could have created that. But I honestly, getting a little older, when I look back at it, I think that we all knew that unconsciously that what we were doing was damn dangerous.
Yeah.
And there was this level of respect amongst who was brave and special, because you knew, like I knew, that what it meant to turn in wide open into turn one at Homestead. And if the things were stepping out, maybe you were walking up in the hospital. So the danger of the car made the sport special, and made this friendship real, because there was this level of respect outside the track to say, if this guy is willing to take that risk, is there must be something special in him. And
Yeah, I
I
mean,
remember you.
back in those days, we didn't have the safety of the cars that it is now. Windscreen, halo, no Hans devices, no safer barriers in those days, and we were driving cars at that time that 900 horsepower was standard. Homestead, Michigan, 240 miles an hour on the straightaway plus, qualifying at places like Fontana at 240 plus. I mean, I guess where I'm going with this is like, you drove through the heyday of how the fastest that IndyCar has ever been. When you see now in your role as you're kind of one of the chief stewards of IndyCar.
Yeah, I'm the steward.
Do you think it was harder for us back then, or is it harder now? Like, what do you like? I know that those cars when we drove, they were beasts.
I don't compare past with the present, but what I know is for sure one of the goal that I personally had when I joined IndyCar as a steward was influencing the sport and making sure that you could see excellence, you could, uh, praise excellence versus mediocrity. And how you do that is making the car really difficult to drive, adding horsepower, and back then in 2099 that was easy because there were few selected that knew how to drive, and they had the ability to drive this beast, 1,000 horsepower. I mean, I have this clear memory, and I'm sorry to bring this up to you, but like one of the last, I don't know if it was the last Fontana race or whatever, we were restarting, you were P2 or P3, I was right behind you, and you took off on the backstretch went fourth, fifth. When you selected fifth, there was so much power that your car took
Yeah,
off poof,
I lost
into
it.
the wall. Into the
Yeah.
wall. I mean, by what, at 160, 180?
Yeah.
I mean, it
No, I
was
was
like
on I remember it because it was that was one of those
on the
ones that got
restart, of course.
away from me. Yeah, it was near the end of the race. It was less than 10 or 15 laps to go. It was a late race yellow. And I'm like, okay, I can win this race. I think Jimmy was leading or Blundell.
Yep.
And I was sitting third. And we go and restarts back then. It's not like today where everybody waits till the very last second to go. Everybody would start, on the other side of the track. So I lit it up and the turbo boost came in and it just spun the tires and like shifting from third to fourth gear. And I lost the car, went across the grass and into the wall. I was like, that was one of those ones that got away.
Yeah,
But
I don't think you didn't cross the
powerful.
grass. You went straight into the wall. I was right behind you. I was timing you. And I remember I could see your rear tire, and I think it was fourth to fifth, not third to fourth. But we were entering we were almost entering turn 3, and I saw the tire, the back of the car getting light over a bump, lighting up, and
Yeah.
taking off. And so what I'm saying is that those cars were selective on their own.
Yeah.
So what it means, being able to be in amongst those 10, 15 drivers that could actually drive a car at the top of their ability, at the top of the possibility of the car, was already special, and the danger as well that was with it, and the fact that only few could. It was really the separator between great and excellent. And I have my own theory, that due to the fact that nowadays the passive safety, both of the car and the track, elevated itself so much that some of the super wealthy family that before they were not allowing their own son to participate in racing because they could have passed, they could have died. Now they are allowing them to do it and taking away a lot more opportunity from the true racers because, I mean, the racing nowadays, the passive safety is great. Car improvement is amazing, but at the same time, that danger that separated who really wanted and could do it between who didn't have the ability to do it is kind of gone. And
well, that's one of the things I wanted to touch on is like in those days when we were racing, we didn't have all that safety, the safer barriers, the Hans devices. And there was a lot of respect when you went into the corner side by side with a guy to give some room. And, I'm hearing a lot lately of the Xfinity and truck drivers. They're absolutely mental now. And I even, you're the steward of IndyCar. You see now, is there a false sense of security with the safety that you think that these guys just don't respect each other because they like swerve all over the track, run guys down into the grass at Indianapolis at 230 miles an hour? Is there less respect now than you think back in the day?
There is for sure less awareness that you can wake up in the hospital. I'm passive safety and modern track improvement change completely the way that people look at the sport. I didn't realize when I was doing it. It was, but I'm looking at it now from the outside, and mm, the level of respect that we had for each other before was an unwritten rule because
Well, you said Greg was pissed at you for a month because you blocked him, and you look at the stuff that goes on now on the track. These guys they'll almost kill you for 15th place.
Yeah, it's as I said, there was that unwritten rule, and when I look back at it, I believe that my inner soul did not want me to go to the funeral of my friends. So I didn't put them in a spot where I know that, was I tough? Yes. Would I've done anything? Close. Would I've done things that I knew that the outcome was gonna be a wreck? Not so sure. Not so sure, because I think that was an inner survival way of looking at it. And again, what I see, to me, again, and I don't want to talk like an old guy, because I feel that racing is dangerous, should be dangerous, but like the passive safety, both in the car and on the track, created this two situation. First of all, as I told you, I remember like yesterday. There were in F1. There was this Johnny Dumfries, teammate of Ayrton Senna, Count of Dumfries. After he went to F1, his family told him, "That's it, done. Come back. No more racing for you. I can give you a list of 3 or 4 friends from super wealthy family that they never got any further than go-kart because they thought it was dangerous." Did that give me the opportunity to go further than most of them? Yes. Nowadays, what I make up in my mind is that all these great things that happen on the track make a lot of the super wealthy family looking at the sport, I don't want to say like golf, but close, like a great opportunity to be in the glamour and everything, because we lost some of that fear factor. We lost some of that respect that is part of the evolution. I mean, if the car is safer now, you don't want to go back to it, and that's one of the things that I'm trying very hard to communicate, with the competitor, the IndyCar, everyone, where I'm telling the guys, remember what legacy you want to leave, because, like,
well, let me ask you this. Do you think now I see you're at the kart track all the time. You're at sprint car races, you're at dirt car races, you're at oval races, you're all over the place. And we haven't even touched on your NASCAR career, but I want to jump into, you working now with IndyCar drivers and their own after race, they have a disagreement, a fight, whatever. But on the respect level, do you think that simulators have caused a lot of this? Because all these kids now are doing everything on simulators, and there's zero consequence to accidents, to hitting somebody. And when they get in a car, they drive the same way that they do in the simulator without a care for the other person.
I think there are a mix of two things. There are a little bit less people that grow up working on their cars and understanding how much it costs to fix them, the effort that it goes there, and to put it together.
Well, that's another thing that I wanted to say to you, but that we missed. It's you grew up to get your opportunity to go-kart racing. You had to go into the shop, change the tires, help build the motor, work on the car. I see kids now coming up through, and they come to the track, a go-kart track, and they've got a semi, and they've got another person following them around with a camera to do their social media. They couldn't even change it. If you asked them to change the tire on the rim, they couldn't do it.
Yeah, like there are some they can and some they cannot. Uh, uh, like in average, if when I came up, I remember Jos Verstappen, Michael Schumacher, and I'm not comparing myself to them, but I remember all of these guys, at the track, on the karting track with their family, even with the works team, with their hand dirty, working on the stuff. Me included, my job was taking the engineering out. Now you don't see that, and I believe that because you don't see that, people don't understand the effort that it takes to get there. Therefore, they don't care about wrecking themselves or wrecking their equipment, um, throwing away hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. And I still believe that there are some, they understand that. The Connor Zillick of the situation, the Brent Cruz of the situation, they separate themselves from the normal. But in general, there is this lack of things are given more than people going out there and building it. And uh, I give you my personal experience. I have my son Matteo, 15 years old. I have him working on the go-kart every day. He knows what he does. I am for necessity, obviously need to do it, but the same things I did with William Byron, coaching William. We went to the karting track and I work with them, with wrenches and stuff, because I think that once you learn how tough it is to do some things that look simple, you will have more respect about maybe not your opposition, not maybe the guy that drives the car, but maybe more respect towards the people at the shop putting the stuff together, your own people. And I think at the end of the day, it's having a mix between being a super tough guy, but at the same time showing a respect towards the sport. And I see less and less of that. I see a lot of people that they believe that they can write a check and that can be forgiven. But I can tell you that you know better than me. That check will take you to a certain level. When you go up here, and the difference in talent between great and less great is maybe 2, 3, 4, 5%.
Yeah.
That check will not take you to the next level.
Well, that was one of the things I remember. It's been almost 10 years now. I remember one time you told me, I'm working with this kid named William Byron. He's for real. And this was way before he was, a NASCAR driver. So tell me how you started now working, you work with a lot of young drivers. Because I see your social media, you're at the kart track, you're always talking with the kids. And how did that relationship really start?
Let's say very simply, I only work with William. I'm his performance advisor. I've been doing that since William's inception. The rest is my good soul, wanting to help other people. I've been doing for William what Senna did for me in the beginning of my career. I always say, you cannot teach speed. Speed comes from God, is a God gift. You can improve it, you can get a little bit better, but what you can learn is all the other factors that make you a champion. That is leadership, humbleness, toughness, being the leader of a 500 people organization, stuff that I learned on my own. That after Ayrton passed, he guided me. I still remember like yesterday, him telling me when I was in F3, hey Max, don't go to Formula 3000. you will have all the things you hate about Formula 3, and you will have to be prepared about fighting like a lion, because people will have very little respect. And the fact that what I did with William, first of all, has been a journey, has been an honor to guide him. I got to know him in first year in late model. He was 17 years old. He was coming from 1 year of Legends car, and before was racing in iRacing. And I'm proud that I passed on to him everything that helped. I sped up his learning curve. That's the best way to say. And
Well,
I increased his learning curve.
We're running out of time here, but I wanted to touch on one more thing. Obviously, it's we didn't even get to your NASCAR career and all.
Maybe we do another time.
We do another time. But you started the steering wheel company after your career was winding down, and your dad was a tie maker.
He had a printing company for ties and scarves.
Yeah, so he was into fashion, into design. Do you think, I'm thinking, do you think his attention to detail, his eye for style, stitching, fabrics, all that kind of stuff maybe led you into the steering wheel? Because when you look at the steering wheels, the stitching is perfect, the materials are perfect, the fabrics. Now you've gotten into seats and gloves. The future is probably racing suits, and your dad was in that industry where it's very detail. The detail has to be perfect.
Yeah, I can tell you this. I got the creativity part from my mom, but from what I got from my dad is the get stuff done, make stuff happen attitude. That's what I got from him. And that's what propelled to go from the garage, starting a business 13 years ago, supplying steering wheel to Hendrick Motorsport, and basically selling, maybe 20, 30 steering wheel a year, to now being the USA market leader with MPI and selling over 20,000 wheel a year. So
yeah, you're the industry standard of steering wheels now. You look at
when you tell me about my dad, what that my dad taught me was wake up early in the morning, get stuff done, fight really hard. And my mom, she's the one that gave me the good genes of like this is the perfection in here. Do that, look at this design and the color. But it's a good combination, and I'm using it all.
And it all kind of comes full circle for you, because you come to America, you're driving for Momo. And now, Momo forever was the industry standard of quality, the best steering wheel you can have. And now that's Max Papis.
Yeah, MPI. But I learned from the founder of Momo. MPI will always be a racing steering wheel company that will do other things, but will always be the premier, in racing, because in racing you learn and you sell on Monday. And I think I use that motto every day. You win on Sunday, you sell on Monday, and you expand your portfolio. So, but at the end of the day, what I learn, the story of my business MPI is very similar to the story of my life. People put me on my knees many times, but I always had the love for the sport and the courage of standing back up and go to work even harder. And I feel that that has been the story of my life, where you start from small. Sometimes you get disappointed, sometimes you win, but I always tell myself, nobody will ever beat me. People can outrun me, but nobody will beat me.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be your friend, to race wheel to wheel with you, watch you grow. I have one final question, and it's going to be a funny one. You sit in these drivers' meetings every week. Who's the biggest pain in the ass in IndyCar? Because I remember back in the day, we used to joke about Elio would always ask the same dumb questions every single week about pit speed limit or something trivial, and he would always stick his hand up in the air and have the same question every week?
It's still the same. Helio Castroneves is the king of asking the wrong question at the wrong time. It's still him now as a team owner, and part-time driver. Yeah, that's why sometimes after the driver meeting, I go to Helio and say, "Wow, 35 years, nothing changed." I love him so much, and
Good to talk to you,
PT
my brother.
has been a pleasure. You are one of the person I love the most and I admire, and I am proud to call you my friend. I might have not liked you before in the beginning, and I love to touch base on that because one day, but I am proud to call you my friend, and I'm proud that you know the real Max inside, and we'll be like that forever.
Okay. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, brother.